Hello everyone, I'm Payal Agarwal, and this video is a quick review of the regulatory amendments that have taken place during the year 2021. To start with, the Companies Amendment Act 2020. Though it was released on September 2020, however, various provisions of the Companies Amendment Act 2020 was notified in the year 2021. Most of them were effective from their date of notification, while some of them were effective from 1st April 2021. Some of the major amendments that took place as a result of the Companies Amendment Act 2020 are change in the definition of listed company. So the definition of listed company now includes only those companies whose equity shares are listed on a recognized stock exchange, which means that a debt listed company no more falls under the definition of a listed company for the purpose of the Companies Act. But now there comes an anomaly since the debt listing regulations of SEBI as well as the LODR regulations recognize debt listed companies as a listed company. So provisions such as DRR, DRF, which were earlier exempted for the listed companies under the Companies Act, now becomes applicable on debt listed companies, considering that the definition of listed company has been changed. But that does not seem to suffice the intent of law. Further, for the ease of doing business as well as for raising capital quickly, the minimum offer period under rights issue has been reduced to 7 days from erstwhile 15 days. A major change that has come by the Companies Amendment Act is the facilitation of payment of minimum remuneration to IDs and NEDs in case of inadequate profits or loss. Yes, so complementary amendment have been taken place in the Schedule 5 as well to permit payment of minimum remuneration to IDs and NEDs in case the company has insufficient profits or losses. In that case, companies can pay remuneration to their IDs and NEDs as per their effective capital employed. Just to mention, this is an enabling provision and not a mandatory one. Companies are not mandatorily required to pay any minimum remuneration to IDs and NEDs in case of loss. Next major change is with regard to CSR. With the coming of Companies Amendment Act 2020 as well as the CSR Amendment Rules 2021 on 22nd January 2021, there has been a major revamping of the provisions applicable to CSR. Unlike the erstwhile provisions which required mere reporting in the board's report on the failure of spending the requisite amounts, the current CSR framework requires reporting as well as transfer of the unspent CSR amounts to a central government specified fund. If the funds are not transferred within a due date as specified under the CSR rules as well as the section 135, in that case, penal provisions apply on the company. Further, the CSR Amendment Rules 2021, they complement the amendments that have taken place under section 135. It defines the concept of ongoing projects, unspent amounts. It talks about impact assessment, administrative overheads. It talks about implementing agencies, who can be implementing agencies, carry forward, set off of losses, and new reporting format under CSR has also been prescribed. Next, there has been a change in the definition of small company, by which the purview of small company has been extended to companies having a paid up capital of 2 crores instead of the existing 50 lakhs, as well as turnover of up to rupees 20 crores instead of the existing 2 crores. Various relaxations have been granted to the OPC, one-person company, with respect to mandatory conversion. For example, there was a turnover limit of rupees 2 crores. If that crossed or paid up share capital of rupees 50 lakhs crossed, the OPC has to mandatorily get itself converted into a private company, a regular private company with at least 2 members. This mandatory conversion has now been removed. Prohibition on conversion up to 2 years, this has also been removed. And the incorporation of OPC has been allowed by any person, even though the person is a resident outside India. There has been amendments under the auditor's report to include management representation on circular transactions or conduit transaction. That is to say that the loans or any other financial transaction, on the face of it, it may seem that the transaction has not been done with the director or any related party, but ultimately the benefit comes to a related party. Compliance with respect to payment of dividend, which is again section 123. Audit trail maintained under accounting software. This is very important since the maintenance of audit trail under the accounting software ensures that no changes have been made once a transaction has been recorded. And if any change is made, the change is reflected so as to the auditors can keep track of the changes that has been done. These changes are applicable with effect from 1st April 2021, except for the maintenance of audit trail, which has been deferred by 1 year and will be applicable from 1st April 2022. Next is the CARO 2020, which is Companies Auditor Report Order 2020. Earlier, it was Companies Auditor Report Order 2016. This is also applicable with effect from 1st April 2021, which means that the auditor's report pertaining to the financial year 21-22 will include CARO 2020 in place of CARO 2016. This entails additional disclosures with respect to details on sanction of working capital limits in excess of 5 crores. The material discrepancy, the term material discrepancy has been quantified to mean 10% of the aggregate. It requires reporting on all financial transactions instead of only loans. There was earlier, CARO 2016 required reporting on loans and their repayment schedule. Now it requires reporting on all financial transactions and the repayment as per the schedule. Next is an additional disclosure. Next is an amendment under Schedule 3, which requires various additional disclosures with effect from 1st April 2021. Some of them include statement on changes in equity, including due to prior period errors, or disclosure of shareholding of all promoters, loans and advances to promoters, directors, KMPs, and related parties, aging schedule of trade payables and trade receivables, disclosure related to funds borrowed from banks and financial institutions as well, revaluation of property with specific details where change is more than 10% and indicate whether the registration has been done by a registered valuer. Details of the Benami property held, relation with struck off companies. This is very important because it may create a lot of questions in the minds of the person who is preparing the financial statements. For example, while I say relation with struck off companies, it can be relation as a buyer, it can be relation as a seller, whether the customers are included, who all are included, struck off companies up to which date. Should I go to the very inception and see all the relations? The company might not be able to keep track of these. So there are a lot of questions. Then disclosures related to conduit lending and borrowing, just like the auditor's report, which includes a management representation on circular transactions or conduit lending. The same comes under the disclosures under Schedule 3. Then title deeds of properties not held in own name. This is again related to the details of Benami transaction or Benami properties. So these were the major amendments that have taken place under the company law, via the act or the rules or in the schedules. Next, we move on to various amendments that have taken place for the listed companies, which are applicable only to the listed companies. First of all, talking about the listing regulations or the listing obligation and disclosure requirements, there have been a total of 6 amendment regulations under the LODR itself in the year 2021. So the amendments require additional disclosures under the Schedule 3 with respect to companies which are under insolvency resolution process and related to minimum public shareholding. Then there has been a major amendment under the LODR by the second amendment regulations, which gives the overriding effect of LODR over sector specific laws. Earlier, the corporate governance requirements that were applicable on the listed companies came with a relief that the companies are following their sector specific laws, which are inconsistent with LODR, the sector specific laws will prevail. For example, in case of banks, the laws specified by RBI will prevail over LODR for corporate governance requirements. But now this has been removed. So now LODR has been given an overriding effect. Then there has been various changes in relation to the RMC, Risk Management Committee, their roles, their functions, their composition, the companies which are required to form a risk management committee. So there has been various changes. There has been increased website disclosures because disclosure is one of the method of fostering corporate governance over a company. Then there have been disclosures related to analyst meet, which also helps checking the insider trading part. Then there has been a notification of the BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, which replaces the erstwhile Business Responsibility Report with effect from 2022-23. However, for the financial year 21-22 as well, the companies can voluntarily give report under the BRSR instead of the existing BRR format. Then there has been a major change under the corporate governance report, which is filed quarterly. It requires details of the financial transactions. When I say financial transactions, it is a very broad term, which includes loans, guarantee, security given, like any kind of financial transaction. So any financial transaction with the promoter or promoter group is required to be disclosed on a quarterly basis in the quarterly corporate governance report. Then there have been major amendments with relation to independent directors, the process of their appointment, qualification, their removal, resignation. Then it does not end over resignation. It extends after that as well. After resignation also the company has to keep a check that whether the director, the independent director, after his resignation in the company has been associated with the company or its group companies for a period of 1 year. So there has been various hefty changes with regard to the independent directors, and these are applicable mostly with effect from 1st January 2022. It also, the role of NRC has also been increased. There has been prescribed a time period for regularization of additional director, not only independent director, any kind of additional director who has to be regularized within a maximum period of 3 months from its appointment in a general meeting. Then there have been changes with respect to corporate governance requirements applicable on debt listed companies. SEBI has specified high value debt listed entities to be debt listed entities which with listed debt of rupees 500 crores or more. So on these high value debt listed companies, the corporate governance requirements are applicable mutatis mutandis as applicable to the equity listed companies. Then there have been various increased reporting requirements with new timelines for all debt listed companies. There has been a major amendment by the 6th Amendment regulations, which has widened the scope of related party and related party transactions. So now, not only the letter, not only at the face of it, if otherwise as well, like the benefits also go to the related party ultimately, then also it's a related party transaction. All the formalities apply there. Even if the company is not entering into a related party transaction, but it's subsidiary, then also it applies. So these amendments are applicable with effect from 1st April 2022. So the company still has time not to go around and make such further related party transactions which are not related on the face of it, but the intent is ultimately related party transactions, but to identify the transactions which will suffice the definition of related party transactions, and accordingly take steps to so that the company is in compliant with this related party transactions with effect from 1st April 2022. Next is the ICDR regulations. Under the ICDR regulations, issue of capital and disclosure requirements, there was a criteria of dividend paying capacity as one of the determining factors for minimum promoter contribution requirements. This criteria has been removed for a preferential issue pursuant to resolution of stressed assets. The applicability of lock-in requirements have been removed. There have been various amendments with respect to innovators growth platform and SR equity shares. The definition of promoter group has been changed. There has been certain modification, and also in case of a public issue, the minimum promoters contribution, the lock-in of minimum promoters contribution has also been reduced subject to certain conditions. And recently, a consultation paper has been released by SEBI, which proposes various changes with respect to pricing, lock-in, pledge of shares, etc., under the preferential issue. This has not came into effect yet. Only a consultation paper has been released, but it is likely that the next year will witness a remarkable change with respect to preferential issue under ICDR regulations. Moving on with the delisting regulations 2021, the erstwhile delisting regulations have been completely repealed and new regulations have come into force. The main characteristic of this delisting regulation is that it provides a time-bound mechanism for delisting. It requires due diligence by a peer-reviewed CS. It requires the disclosure of the intention to delist by the acquirer or promoter at the very initial stage, and fosters various enhanced responsibility on the board of a company. Next is the non-convertible securities regulation. Broadly, it consolidates the regulations applicable to listed NCDs and listed NCRPS as listed non-convertible securities, NCS, and various applicable circulars to that. It requires mandatory appointment of debenture trustee in case of a listed issue, whether it be via private placement or public issue, whether secured or unsecured. It includes provisions relating to call and put option, gives some relaxations with respect to shelf prospectus, and specifies a minimum subscription at 75% of the issue size in case of public issue. Next is the employee-based share benefits and sweat equity regulations. Again, this is a consolidation of the share-based employee benefits and sweat equity regulations with various applicable circulars. Now, the employee-based share benefits can be given to permanent as well as non-permanent employees. A company can go for repricing or switchover of the mode from direct to trust route or from trust to direct by the shareholders' approval. A compliance certificate has to be obtained from the secretarial auditors. Next is the PIT regulations. Under the PIT regulations, the disclosures have been made more automated through the SDD. Next, we move on to the regulations or amendments with respect to RBI, which are mostly applicable to banks as well as NBFCs. Some of them are applicable only to NBFCs and some of them are applicable only to banks. So starting with a major change or a major framework which has been introduced for NBFCs is a scale-based regulatory framework. So it removes it will have the effect of removing the erstwhile classification of NBFCs as systematically important and non-systematically important NBFC. It will rather be a scale-based regulation. It has not come into effect yet. It will come into effect at a later date. However, the broad framework has been released by RBI. Then there has been a master direction on NBFC HFCs, which is basically a consolidation of various applicable circulars. There has been a master direction on digital payment security controls, which are mainly applicable to payment banks or credit card issuing NBFCs, etc. There have been directions on declaration of dividend, which requires the declaration of dividend by NBFC subject to fulfillment of certain conditions with respect to NPA or suppose minimum dividend payout ratio or the like. A relaxation has been granted to banks giving loans to directors, like loans to directors of other banks as well as permissible relatives. The limits have been increased. The maximum limit up to which loans can be given, that has been increased. Some clarifications have been given with regard to definition of control or suppose major shareholder, etc. Then there has been a master circular on financial statements, presentations and disclosures directions, which again is basically a consolidation exercise by RBI, consolidating various applicable circulars and instructions, etc. for financial statements of banks. There have been a prudential norms on income recognition and asset classification, which is basically a clarification given by RBI in the month of November regarding the calculation of NPA, classification of an asset as NPA and the like. Then there has been amendments to the master direction on KYC, which is mainly with respect to video KYC. There have been directions on certificate of deposit, which specifies who can be the issuer, what are the eligibility requirements, who can be issued to, what is the maximum amount, etc. There have been guidelines on appointment of statutory central auditors or statutory auditors. It specifies the maximum number of auditors that can be appointed, the maximum term for which they can be appointed, the maximum number of audit assignments they might be having in hand while they are being appointed, then criteria relating to their independence, then relating to their remuneration, etc. Then there is risk-based internal audit, corporate governance and banks. which requires board to have an oversight on the entire internal audit process and various such requirements. These are applicable on banks as well as on select NBFCs, like systematically important NBFCs having an asset size of rupees 5,000 crores or more, like that. There have been transfer of loan exposures directions 2021, which basically has the effect of consolidating every kind of direction which are imposed on transfer of loan exposures. It contains general provisions with respect to transfer of loan exposures. It has specific chapter for transfer of loans relating to stressed assets or relating to standard assets, then the disclosure and reporting requirements, everything. There has been the notification of securitization of standard asset directions 2021, which a draft of which was released 15 months before the notification came, and it has the effect of repealing all the erstwhile applicable instructions, directions, etc. with regard to securitization of standard assets and gives a consolidated view. It also includes the introduction of STC standardization based on the lines of what is already applicable under the EU regulations, European Union. Then there have been some other amendments. For example, the LLP Amendment Act 2021 was notified. There was a draft bill which was also introduced with respect to the LLP amendment, which was mostly relating to decriminalization of offenses, but also included various other changes. For example, various definitional changes. Then the various provisions of the LLP Act have been aligned with that of the Companies Act. The definition of business has been amended so that central government may specify some activities which are not included under the definition of business. So if you're an LLP and you fall within the list of activities specified by central government as which are not included under the definition of business, you will not be able to do that. So that will be a restricting or a prohibiting factor, but that has not been prescribed yet. Then we know there are the Code of Wages 2019, which was likely to come in the month of October 2021, but has not yet come into effect. It is very likely that the same will be notified within the next year, surely. It deals with minimum wages, minimum and maximum bonus, allocable and available surplus, gender neutrality in payment of wages, etc. So that was it for the day, and this was a very short, a quick review of the regulatory amendments that we have witnessed during the period during the year of 2021. However, the amendments are very vital and very major. So in the description box below, I'll give links to our detailed lectures on each of the amendments, which are major in nature, for your quick reference and review. Thank you.